Hello, and welcome to the third episode of BrettCast, the show where I take all of my segments and jam them into one video that releases once, maybe twice a month. On this episode, we're going to kick things off with movie and TV talk, where I'm going to be reading and discussing some plot holes in Transformers Dark of the Moon. That is going to get followed up with gaming talk, where I'll be discussing and giving my thoughts on Rise of the Tomb Raider. Then I'll move into what's new with and talk about upcoming releases for Transformers, Marvel Legends, and DC Multiverse. Finally, I'll close things out with music talk, where I will unbox and show off my version of Metallica's latest album, as well as give my thoughts on it. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to the movie and TV talk segment. In this segment, I'm going to continue on from the last part, from the last episode, and technically the one before that, where I'm going to be reading and giving my thoughts on the plot holes from Transformers Dark of the Moon, according to movieplotholes.com. So, let's get into it. Plot hole number 1. Optimus Prime has weapons that can cut through almost anything. He is seen destroying walls with his fists and slashing through Decepticons like butter with his energy swords. So, when the scripts need him to be out of the fight for a few minutes, Optimus gets entangled in some construction wires. He is immobilized for a few minutes. He doesn't try to free himself with his swords or his free arm. No Decepticon even shoots at him. And only when 3 other Autobots climb the building can he finally be set free. You know what? I totally agree with this one, making no sense at all. In fact, I'd add to this, or make the correction here, that Optimus was not MIA for just a few minutes after he gets tangled up. I don't remember exactly how much of the Battle of Chicago happens while Prime is tangled up, but it's definitely more than a few minutes. Something I'd add is that the film honestly expects me to believe that those wires can hold the weight of any Autobot or Decepticon. I don't think so. But yeah, it's a good question of why didn't he use a blade or something to cut himself free. Plot hole number 2. The script mentions the humans installed energon detectors in big cities around the world in order to spot Decepticons. Nevertheless, they didn't spot the tiny Decepticon wristwatch that Sam carried with him into various U.S. military bases. Where do I start with this? I feel like this is one of those many inconsistencies in the world building, or lack thereof, in the Bay Transformers universe. Yeah, they say in the beginning of the movie that energon detectors were installed, but they really never mention it after that or use them ever again, and they never are important really ever again in the movie. So why even mention it in the movie if you're just not going to do anything with it? It makes no sense to me. Plot hole number 3. Sam tries to save Carly from a building. This building is unfortunately right beside the one where Sentinel Prime and Megatron are standing. Why didn't they react to Bumblebee firing at their human allies? They were right beside them. Okay, I'm a bit confused here. The only building I remember Sam and Carly getting trapped in was the one that was going over because of the driller bot thing that Shockwave unleashed. The building that was destroyed upon order by Shockwave. It also contains some of the military guys as well. That's the only building I remember Sam and Carly in, and if that's the building mentioned here, sorry to say that it was nowhere near the area where Sentinel and Megatron were. I could be misremembering here, but that's what I got. Plot hole number 4. There are hundreds of Decepticons and their ships on the dark side of the moon, yet none of them tried to help Megatron or the Fallen in the last 2 movies. Why did they stay there, under the surface? Why wait for a teleportation device to go to Earth if they had all those ships with them? See, this is sort of similar to the previous plot hole in the sense that this follows the trend of inconsistencies in the Michael Bay Transformers movies. I actually very much agree with this plot hole. Why didn't Megatron get the help of the hidden Decepticon army in the first movie? Why didn't Megatron and the Fallen use that same army in Revenge of the Fallen? It's like how at the end of Age of Extinction, Prime just kind of flies off. Like, why didn't he use that any other time in the movie? Anyway, I do agree they didn't need to wait for the teleportation device to get that army to Earth. They could have just flown there. As it said, there's a bunch of ships there, so it really doesn't make any sense. Plot number 5. When Cybertron is slowly teleporting itself beside Earth, nothing happens to Earth's tides, and there are no additional gravitational forces of any kind. Yeah, I don't think that Michael Bay was focused on the actual science part of what happens if you were to pull one planet into the very close gravitational pull of another planet. But I think we can all agree that Earth would have been having some nasty stuff happening to it as Cybertron was getting pulled in. Plot hole number 6. Sentinel Prime's quote, "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few." This makes no sense in the context he is using it. He plans to use 6 billion humans as slave labor in order to answer the needs of a few thousand Transformers. Clearly, his plan means the needs of the few outweigh the needs of the many. Yeah, this one definitely tracks if you ask me. There are obviously far fewer Cybertronians than there are humans, and thus, yes, the Cybertronians are the few, and the humans are the many. I think the only reason this quote made it into the movie is because the voice actor behind Sentinel Prime is Leonard Nimoy of long-running Star Trek fame. I'm pretty sure that exact quote is used throughout Star Trek, but don't quote me on how often that quote is used in Star Trek because I've never watched any of it. Anyway, given that it was used in Star Trek by Nimoy's character, I'm guessing that Bay wanted him to say it in Dark of the Moon, even if it doesn't make a lot of sense, hence why it made its way into the movie. Plot number 7. Sam Witwicky can't find a job even though he saved the world twice. Not only can't he find a job, but no one recognizes him. He would be a major celebrity by now, even if he tried not to be. Now, I don't think that would be entirely true. While the final battle in the first movie took place in a pretty populated city, did you see any news cameras or anything while Sam was running around? I'd also wager that after that battle, the government probably did everything to cover up what happened in Mission City, which means that Sam's involvement would not be made public. Plus, I'm also going to wager that the various government people probably told Sam to be hush about it, you know? But yeah, in Revenge of the Fallen, he got his face plastered everywhere, but not in a good way. Plus, the last big battle in Revenge of the Fallen took place in the desert, and despite the Decepticons revealing themselves to the world and what happened to Sam, I'm sure the government kind of tried to just scrub that out of the minds of the regular populace. Point being, I think that Sam's involvement in the major battles in previous movies were kept out of public knowledge, probably by the government and the military. Plot hole number 8. Optimus Prime is sometimes not smart. The Autobots had a plan to return to Earth, even though they were launched into space. After Starscream destroys the rocket, everyone assumes all Autobots died. When they all show up in the final act and reveal the ruse, Optimus mentions that it was needed in order to make the humans realize they needed them, and also that it would give them an edge in the fight, an element of surprise. But since they let Bumblebee fly a plane with Sam in order to save Carly, a long time before they did anything themselves, there was no real element of surprise. All the Decepticons were ready once the other Autobots entered the inner city, so basically, Optimus created a plan where they let thousands of people die in order to get an element of surprise they didn't even use. Yes, I think it's safe to say that Prime's plan was very stupid to begin with. However, sending the Autobots off was needed because that was the humans cooperating with the demands of Sentinel Prime. Demands that said if the humans exiled the Autobots, he and the rest of the Decepticons would leave Earth peacefully. So Sentinel and the Decepticons also deceived the humans into thinking that they would leave with the Autobots, but obviously they further invaded Earth once the Autobots left and thought to be destroyed. Now, That doesn't excuse the fact that, yes, a lot of humans' lives were lost in the process of the Decepticons' invasion and the return of the Autobots. Plus, it is still true that once the Autobots entered the city, their so-called element of surprise was blown after Sam very messily saves Carly. Yes, it was not a very well thought out plan on Prime's part. Also, I do not condone the use of the R word. They used it in this when I was reading the plot hole. When I said Optimus Prime is sometimes not smart, they used the R word. I don't condone that. Bad. Plot hole number 9. Optimus Prime is sometimes a psychopath. At the conclusion of the movie, Optimus is saved by Megatron. Megatron clearly shows that he does not want to fight and amusingly mentions they both need each other. Optimus, being the hero of this trilogy, stands up and expresses his gratitude towards his old nemesis by plunging his gigantic energon axe in Megatron's head and inserting his hand in his throat in order to pull out his spinal cord. Then, Optimus sees the main villain of the story, Sentinel Prime, apologizing for his mistakes and begging Optimus to spare his life. Optimus takes Sentinel's own gun and shoots him twice in the head. Imagine that scene with human bodies. Wow, this is vastly different take on Prime, for one, and I think people need to realize that. Now, I do think they went too far in Age of Extinction when he kills a human, but we will get to that in the next podcast episode. Anyways, yes, it is a gruesome end to the movie, but I don't know if I fully agree with this being a plot hole, as it's more just related to the character of Optimus Prime. This is pretty accurate about Megatron clearly not wanting to fight Prime. I'm pretty sure that when Megatron saves him, his words are, "This is my planet," which he says to Sentinel Prime as he shoots him, and then tells Prime that they need a truce because all Megatron wanted was to be back in charge, and then says to Optimus, "Who would you be without me?" However, Prime doesn't actually shove his hand down Megatron's throat to rip his spine out. Rather, he sinks his axe into Megatron's head, and when he pulls the axe, the head and spine all come off and out with it. On top of that, I don't think I'd call Sentinel's words begging for his life when he tells Prime all he wanted was the survival of their race, which was his justification as to why he betrayed the Autobots, and Sentinel wants Prime to understand that. There was no begging for one's life, like, even when, Optimus charges up the gun, Sentinel Prime just lets out a "No, Optimus" before getting shot to pieces. Now, I'm going to end this here, as this segment is already pretty long, and I don't feel the need to go over the last 4 plot contrivances and the last 2 unaddressed issues. So, that is going to bring the movie and TV talk segment to a close. Hello and welcome to the Gaming Talk segment. In this segment, I'm going to be discussing and giving my thoughts on the game Rise of the Tomb Raider. With that out of the way, let's get into it, and remember, there may be spoilers. Now, the first thing I want to mention is the improvements made from the previous game to this one. For me, that comes in the form of using those picks for climbing. In the previous game, they had this, in my opinion, really dumb system where clicking the left mouse would move the left arm for climbing, and clicking the right mouse would do the same for the right arm. I don't know if I'm explaining this the best, but that's how it was in the previous game, and while the developers probably thought it was intuitive and creative, I thought it was dumb and arduous, and I'm glad that this game they removed it. Yes, when you climb with the picks, you can just press whatever directional button and not have to do anything else. They still kept the need to press a key when jumping to a climbable surface with the picks, but it isn't that bad. Another huge improvement is that this game has a heck of a lot less QuickTime events than the previous one, and thank goodness for that. That got me killed more times than I care to admit in the previous game, and I'm glad that they lessened the amount of them in this game. There are some new things in this game, of course. Staying with those picks used for climbing, you can now use them for jumping across gaps that are a bit too wide in order to get to ledges that are a bit too high up. When you do, it's like there's a rope attached to the handle of the picks that is useful for swinging on or climbing up, and I really like this addition. Something I don't think was in the previous game that is in this one is that this game has a bit more of a survival aspect to it. Now, not only are you picking up scraps as you go, but also getting wood from trees, cloth, herbs, and etc. that can be crafted into various things. I mean, like more than just upgrades for weapons, but also making healing items and, using materials to turn glass bottles into Molotovs or turning cans into makeshift smoke bombs. I'm neither here nor there on this, but it does make one pay more attention to their surroundings and explore the levels a little more and not just rush through everything. There are, of course, your mainstays from the previous game, like using camps to spend skill points, upgrade tools and weapons. The enemies don't seem any better or worse in this game. One thing to note in this game is that when you are in an enemy encounter and you hide behind cover, they tend to spam grenades at you to get you out of cover. I don't remember the enemies doing that in the previous game as much as they do in this one, and it's honestly kind of annoying how much they do it in this game. Now, just a personal thing that carries from the previous game for me is that any of the optional challenge tombs, I basically only did them, like the ones that I had to do. And yes, I basically had to look up how to do most of them because they were just too difficult for me to figure out. That's not a fault of the game. I'm just not a puzzle person unless it's Bejeweled 3. But yeah, I found the optional challenge tombs especially difficult, and I didn't do all of them because I'm not a fan of them. And I actually found that this game has less puzzles in it in general during the story itself. They focused more on the survival and the action stuff, a lot less than puzzles, and I personally am okay with that. But some others may not be. The only real difficulty I had puzzle-wise was like the observatory part of the game, but that wasn't much of a puzzle as it was more of like an agility, not even an agility thing, I don't know, timing, because it's a lot of climbing on moving platforms, and I died like 13 times doing that. Now, I don't want to talk much about the story, even the DLC stuff, because I think it's worth experience for oneself. Lastly, when I bought the game, I got the 20-year celebration version of the game that comes with tons of additional costumes and weapons from past Tomb Raider games, so if you're a huge Tomb Raider fan, I'd suggest that edition of the game. I am not, but it was cheaper when I got it on sale, which is when I'd recommend getting it, as I don't think the game is worth $30. Rise of the Tomb Raider is a good and enjoyable game. With that, we have reached the conclusion of the Gaming Talk segment. Hello and welcome to the What's New With segment. On this segment, I'm going to start with some new Transformers Legacy and Studio Series stuff, then talk about an upcoming Marvel Legends figure, and then I'm going to look at new DC Multiverse figures for the upcoming Flash movie. Let's get into it. These first Studio Series ones really excite me. First, we have the Studio Series Gamer Edition Deluxe Class Bumblebee. Yes, they're finally tackling the Cybertron video games, and I couldn't be happier. Now, some people are mixed on B, mostly because of the chest being so big and blocky. I've seen a lot of people hoping the figure isn't transformed correctly in these promo pictures, and it honestly wouldn't surprise me because that does happen. For me personally, while he's got a bit of chunk in the chest, I don't mind it all that much, but I really want it. Next one is the Studio Series Gamer Edition Deluxe Class Barricade. This one seemed kind of odd. Like, why did they put Barricade in the first wave? You'd have thought they would have picked one of the more popular characters, especially for Decepticons, like Soundwave or Starscream, because it's Hasbro. My thing with Barricade is that I like the vehicle mode, but I'm not quite sure. On the robot mode, it looks like there's going to be a lot of back and upper leg kibble, and I'm not sure on it at that point. Probably will wait and see reviews before making my decision, saving the best for last of this group, and that is the Studio Series Gamer Edition Voyager class Optimus Prime. One thing I didn't mention with the other two is that I love how they're making it so the guns attached to like the hands and are a part of the arm, and it makes it look exactly like they do in the game. And I love it. Of course, Prime also has his sweet looking Energon axe and the Matrix of Leadership in the chest too, which is awesome. They really nailed both modes for Prime. It just looks awesome. Only issue I agree with is the thighs in the robot mode are extremely hollow and pretty disappointing to see that. It's like Hasbro has to pick one area on every figure to cheap out on. Other than that though, Prime looks awesome and I'm going to get it. Switching over to Legacy, I'm starting with Deluxe Class Beachcomber. I'm really glad they're finally giving him a deluxe figure. He deserves it. I like Beachcomber and I still have my smaller one from Power of the Primes and I'm looking forward to getting this one. Next up is Deluxe Class Axel Grease. Apparently this is a Decepticon Junkion, which I didn't know was a thing. But I really love the blue, purple, and silver colors and the sort of Mad Max vibe the vehicle gives me, which looks really cool. Definitely gonna get this one. After that is Voyager Class Dirge. I'm very happy to get a standalone figure of Dirge. It was disappointing in Earthrise that Dirge got slammed in an Amazon exclusive 2-pack with Ramjet. It's just as disappointing when they did that to my boy Thundercracker. I know this will be basically the Earthrise Seeker mold again, but I like Dirge and I want it. I hope they do the other Coneheads as standalone figures and also never do 2-packs again. Hell, re-release Earthrise, Thundercracker, and Skywarp figures in Legacy as standalone figures too while you're at it. Finally, we have the Leader Class Armada Universe Megatron. This guy looks awesome. I love we're getting more Unicron Trilogy stuff. Short and sweet version is that I want it and I need to catch up and get Hotshot and Armada Starscream in Legacy as well. Additionally, they did in the promo pictures for these Legacy figures put a Legacy Armada Prime in there, but they didn't show him like the rest of these figures. Now to flip over to Marvel Legends for one thing. This is the Marvel Legends Gameverse Miles Morales figure for the upcoming Spider-Man 2 video game. Now I'm really looking forward to this figure as I missed out on Miles when they released his figure for the Miles Morales video game. Honestly, I don't know how different this one is to that one, and I don't care. Personally, I like it and I want this figure more than the one they just released images of from the Across the Spider-Verse movie. Finally, going to flip over to DC Multiverse. First up is the Flash Batman costume from the upcoming Flash movie. I'm going to say I don't like this one at all. The reds are much too dark. Those little ears are really weird looking. The effects are whatever, as most figures of the Flash have some variation of it. I just do not like this figure, and I would not get it. The next we have is the Flash Speed Force from the same movie. Now this one looks much better than the one I just mentioned. I like that there's more gold on the boots. The costume just much better as a whole. The colors are much better too, and I'd pick this one over the other one if I were going to get a Flash figure from the new movie. After that we have Supergirl from the same movie. I don't know, something just looks off. It's the face and the hair for me. The colors, everything else looks fine, but the face and the hair are just not doing it for me. I don't really like it. And lastly, we have Batman from the Flash movie. Kind of like the Supergirl figure, but something feels off about the face to me. The lips are a bit too pronounced, and that kind of throws the whole thing off for me. If it was not for that, I'd probably like this one, as the rest of the figure looks pretty nice. But I'm going to probably skip this one. And that's all I got here, and that is going to bring the What's New With segment to a close. Alright everybody, hello and welcome to the Music Talk segment. I know, using camera for, the podcast. Oh my gosh. But it's okay, because I literally, just as we're recording this, got this bad boy in the mail today. So this is my pre-ordered copy of Metallica's latest album, 72 Seasons. So we're gonna open this bad boy up. As you can see, it is still in the plastic. So let's take a look at it, shall we? Here's the front, which I really like that artwork right there. That's really cool how they did that. Of course, the side here says 72 Seasons Metallica. Their Blackened Records production, I'm assuming, or Blackened Recordings. And this side is nothing. And then we have the back side here that says Metallica 72 Seasons, the new album, 42 years of Metallica in over 77 minutes, featuring Lux Eterna, Screaming Suicide, and If Darkness Had a Sun. Very cool. Very, very cool. So let's open this shit up, man. Let's open this up. Alright, so when we open it up, we have a picture here of James. Very good picture, actually. And this side just says 72 Seasons Metallica. And that's really kind of it. That's new from opening it. So let's... And we open it farther. We have, I think that's Rob. It looks like Rob. And we have some headphones there. Nice, nice. It's a good photo. And we open this up further. We have a picture of a globe, as well as a picture of Lars. That's a good photo as well. And of course, oh no, that's Rob. That means that's Kirk. And that side has I'm guessing, oh, it's a record player. A very not good looking record player. And we open it up the final way here. We have this, which is probably the booklet. Yeah, the music booklet with a teddy bear on it. And then this lower flap has our track list. 72 Seasons, Shadows Follow, Screaming Suicide, Sleepwalk My Life Away, You Must Burn, Lux Eterna, Crown of Barbed Wire, Chasing Light, If Darkness Had a Sun, Too Far Gone, Room of Mirrors, and Inamorata, I believe it is. And there is the CD. Very nice looking CD too, with the same track information on it, as well as the blackened logo on it. And that's pretty cool, honestly. I could get this to work. And see, you kind of have that if you look at it from the opposite side. Okay, so real quick, taking an interjection at the book here. This is our lyrics book. So that's basically the lyrics there to 72 Seasons. That's the lyrics to Shadows Follow. Sleepwalk My Life Away's lyrics. You know, you get the picture, I think. The imagery they use is kind of weird. With these, like, decrepit toys and stuff. Chasing Light. Too Far Gone, question mark. And that one. But yeah, just wanted to take a look through that real quick. But anywho, yeah, that's pretty much it here. For this, so that's gonna end the music talk segment. And with that, that's going to bring this episode to a close. If you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe if you want to add to the conversation, or leave a question related to this or any past episode. Leave a comment below, and I may answer that question, or discuss a comment in a future episode. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.